We gotta.
Hi.
Hello.
Wow.
Welcome.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
You ready to talk about Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I think so. Everyone else has been doing such a good job. I feel like kind of nervous.
No, don't worry about it. It's
Okay.
gonna be great.
Yeah. Thanks. I feel like I'm interested in like just sort of like tracing the history. Um, I feel like Taylor Swift is in a particularly interesting moment right now, especially like I feel like generally, like 2017 when she was doing like the Reputation stuff, like pretty much everybody hated her. Like
Mhm.
she was just very universally like disliked, and now like she's very beloved, and she's had a great like past 6 months. And I want to talk about all the stuff with her masters and the re-recording of her catalog. The whole thing with like Big Machine and Scooter Braun. So I guess I mean it starts like she from like a ridiculously young age is like modeling for like Abercrombie and Fitch and like doing all this like just doing all this like big music stuff and lands this record deal at 16 with Big Machine, which is an imprint of Universal Music Group that was like just starting out, and she signs like a 12-year contract with them. This is important
At
because it comes
at
up
at how old? 14? 16.
16. 16.
Whoa. Jeez.
Yeah. And yeah, and so 2006 is when the first album comes out. It's self-titled. People generally refer to it as the debut. People just call it debut. Her first ever single is Tim McGraw, and then we have like Teardrops on My Guitar, Our Song. All these songs are just like there's you can tell she loves Shania Twain and like Faith Hill, and she is singing like a completely different person. She's got like a fake Southern accent going. She's like from Pennsylvania, and
Yeah.
she's got this like drawl going on. I love there's the song Picture to Burn on here where she says like she has that really homophobic lyric
Oh, what's
where
that?
she says she says go and tell your friends that I'm obsessive and crazy. That's fine. I'll tell mine you're gay. Um
Oh.
and then it gets changed. She changes it retroactively after catching a lot of heat. And now instead of I'll tell mine you're gay, it's don't mind if I say.
Hmm.
So but there's a lot of documentation. There's this really great supercut of all the times where she says you're gay while she's performing. Um and obviously that was like a huge success, and I feel like so much of her future gets like informed by this like child stardom and like the sort of like trauma that comes with it also. And I feel like as the more her career goes on, the more she becomes like defined by this like obsession with how she's being perceived. But second album Fearless comes out in 2008. um this is the one that a lot of people are talking about right now because the re-recorded version is coming out in April, and she just dropped the new version of Love Story. So got like a really strong country sound on here. She collaborates with Colby Calais on one of these songs. I would say that this is a lot more like ballad driven,
Hmm.
and it's really long. The extended version comes out and it's like an hour and 20 minutes long. And apparently the re-release version that's coming out this April has like 6 more tracks, so it's going to be like 22 songs or something crazy.
Whoa.
And then right after this comes out, because you have You Belong With Me. And this is when the VMAs things happen, is 1 year after 2009 with Kanye West, where he like comes up on stage and says that Beyonce is the greatest video of all time. um
As we all
which
remember.
yeah, this is like this is a big moment for her, because I feel like a lot of people who previously didn't have an opinion on Taylor Swift are now like very focused because this is like this really unprecedented thing that's happening.
Yeah.
And so now you have even more eyes on her. 2010, we're seeing So Speak Now comes out. This is like when we see a little bit of a departure from the country sound, going towards more like a strong, like pop rock kind of thing. This is the point where you can sort of start tracking her albums by her relationships. So at this point, she's dated John Mayer for a little bit. They have like a pretty notable age gap.
Mm-hmm.
There's a song on here called Dear John where she basically is like saying that it was basically like fucked up, like that whole thing that happened.
Really?
Like, yeah, and he remarks about it later and says that it was like unfair of her to like write a song about him, like so where she actually like basically just like names him. Um, she's dating Nick Jonas at this time. They have like a brief relationship. There's a song called Back to December that's about him. It's very interesting in the context of all her other songs because I feel like she's sort of like owning up to like kind of messing up the relationship.
Hmm.
There's a great song on here that I feel like is such a weird crossover. There's a song called Enchanted that's about her meeting the Owl City guy, Adam Young. And he does a version, he covers the song Enchanted, and he like mentions her by name where he was like, I was enchanted to meet you, Taylor. And it's
Whoa.
so weird. I don't know if everyone knows what this guy looks like, but he is like the weirdest looking dude, just like looks like 3D printed.
What's
Is
his
like
name?
the Adam Young, I think his name is.
Here, I'll pull him up real quick.
Yeah, get him on the screen.
So he was, oh my god. He was 3D printed. That's true.
Why does his face look like that?
Okay, this is Adam Young real quick. Okay. Yeah. So the viewers see him.
Great. Yeah, so there's that. And then this is also her relationship with Jake Gyllenhaal begins, which she talks about a lot on the next album that's going to come out in 2012, which is Red. This is like the defining, like this is like her big like indie moment, I would say. Her first big indie moment. And there's like a coded message in the liner notes where she spells out the phrase maple lattes, which were like something that her and Jake Gyllenhaal used to drink together while they were dating. There's like a power ballad on here called All Too Well that's like about their whole relationship. A lot of that album is about him.
We have a question from the chat. What's your favorite song of hers?
I was, I know I just brought it up, but All Too Well has been a favorite for a long time. It's like a really strong ballad, great emotional climax. I would say that she's got great bridges. Like I feel like this is one of her like defining characteristics as a songwriter is like really, really strong bridges. And even as you see her like writing through these different styles, the bridges all stay so strong. All Too Well is a great bridge. But it's time to start talking about the synth pop moment that starts 2014. 1989 comes out. This is when her and Jack Antonoff sort of start linking up and making music together. Shake It Off. This is, I don't know. I don't really have too much to say. I feel like I became a little disillusioned at this point. I love this album now, but this is a moment where like I feel like people in general are kind of like sort of like the general public, and this is sort of like bringing on the Reputation era, is like people are starting to become like a little disenchanted.
Yeah.
So 2017, this is like when people really start to see her as like kind of like a villain figure. Reputation, people were, like the stuff between her and Kanye where it's happening.
Yeah, it's like reprised a bunch of times.
Yeah, because there was that whole thing where Kanye puts out Famous where he says me and Taylor might still have sex.
Yeah.
And she's like, I didn't know that he was going to say that. And then Kanye was like, I did tell Taylor that I was going to put the song out. And people, so I guess Reputation is supposed to come out on Kanye's mom's birthday. And people were like, she did that on purpose. And it's like, you can make your own decision about that. I feel like I don't really know personally where I land on that. This album is the worst Taylor Swift album. Like there's some great songs on it, but it is really, really bad. Like there's a song where Ed Sheeran raps.
Oh.
It is, I would say there's about like 4 or 5 really strong songs on here, and the rest is just like embarrassing. Yeah. And then so 2 years later is when the sort of dispute with her masters goes on, because Reputation is her last album with Big Machine. This is a 12-year contract that started when she was 16 years old. And the whole time it's going on, she basically like has stated her intentions that she wants, like, she doesn't own her masters, but she basically is like, if you're ever going to sell the masters, I want to buy them.
Yeah.
And so in spite of this, Big Machine sells all of her masters to Screw Braun, who's this like big time like talent manager. He manages like Ariana Grande, a bunch of other people. And then they basically try and like stop her from like using her own music. And like they had that Netflix documentary that came out about her that's called Miss Americana. And then she was supposed to perform at an award show. And they're basically, because she doesn't own her music anymore, they're trying to block her from performing it. And this is when she starts, she begins to re-record like her entire catalog, which at this point is 6 albums, just crazy. And in the midst of this, she releases Lover 2019. Just I would call a strong release. I don't really have too much to say about it. It's a you know, like.
What's your favorite music video of hers?
Music video, honestly, I love, and I feel like it's because I have like a bit of a nostalgic soft spot for it, but You Belong With Me, the one that the VMA dispute was about, I think that I thought it was great. I didn't know that she played 2 roles in it. So she plays herself in like 2 different ways. And I was like, that other girl looks a lot like Taylor Swift. Like, I didn't know. I was very young and very impressionable. I would say she has a very strong music video catalog. And now like over quarantine, she's put out these 2 albums, Folklore and Evermore. I feel like her music is more accessible than ever, even though it's not taking on this like mainstream pop sound, but it's like you have people who like have never been fans newly converted because it's got this like very palatable, like kind of like Starbucks indie sound.
Yeah,
I love. And you know, the re-recorded version of Love Story just came out.
What do you think of it?
I love the sort of like faithful interpretation she took towards it. I'm really interested to hear the rest of the album, and especially, I mean, she's putting out her second album first, but I'm really interested in hearing the first record, the debut, like sort of reimagined, because her vocal style has changed so much since then. And I'm just really interested to see like what her take on those songs is going to be.
Yeah. All right, you got 1 minute left. Please give me your closing thoughts about Taylor Swift. What should we know? What should we take away?
I feel like she's like overrated and underrated at the same time, you know? I just feel like if you haven't heard the most 2 recent records, and like I just think you should give it a shot, cuz I was really disillusioned and I came back stronger than ever, you know?
That's a great note to end on. Thank you so much, Sam. Incredible. You should go in the chat because you have some fans who are really excited to talk more about Taylor Swift.
Oh, great.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye-bye.